Fucking hell.
Bit nippy, isn't it? Right. We'll go. We'll keep it brief.
You got some questions, aren't you? So we're going to make some banter about this. I'm going to say, right, come on, son, give me the killer question.
Right, let's go. Carl, good morning. Let's firstly start with the Scholars' defeat last week. What was your take on it?
Oh, listen, I was really disappointed. The coach was disappointed. The players were, I predict, and especially the supporters. You know, they were dejected as well. But I just need to, you know, it was hard. But what I need to try and make people realise, and I don't want this to sound an excuse, and I don't want it to be disrespectful to London, but we had a massive amount of players. You know, it's not good to say this, but you know, we had about 13 of anybody's first pick, 17 for the club probably not playing. Now, I don't want to take it away from London, but I still believe we still had a team good enough to beat London on the day. We've been trying to bring players in. The other week, I think I mentioned there was 3 or 4 players playing out of the top 20 on my board. Now, we've been trying to bring players in for the last 3 or 4 weeks. The only place we can get players from is in the Championship or the Super League, and over the Easter period they weren't willing to let any players come out on loan because they played 2 games or 3 games in a very short space of time. So Monday morning, you know, people say, well, what we do about it, what we're going to do about it. Monday morning I was on the phone at 7 o'clock in the morning seeing what sort of players were available, and I spoke to a few Super League coaches, a few Championship coaches, and basically told them our story. You know, I've got a list in my hand here. We've got 13 players still unavailable. Explain that to them. Our 1, 6, 9 and 13 are out. We're out. Add to that, Geordie's now out, so that's our 1, 6, 7, 9 and 13. These coaches, it's not my words, these coaches I spoke to, and they're very, very high profile coaches, have turned around and says, gee Carl, we thought we were doing it tough. You know, they says any country, any team in the world would struggle with their 1, 6, 7 and 9 and 13 out, and never loan another 10, 11 to go along with them. But we've got a big squad. I still think, you know, I was really disappointed because I still think the team that played could have beat London, and we just panic a little bit, you know, in good field. And you know, to be fair to Gary, you know, after 4 games we all thought we're going to win the league. You know, we had some real good wins. We picked up a heap of injuries. It all stemmed from the Hunslet game, and you know, people say this is what happens when you sign kids and no names and all that, but you know, after the first 4 games everyone was happy and it was hunky-dory. But you know, Gary will be judged when the players that the top players he's brought in, and these 13 players or close to our best team is on the field, he'll be judged then. But it's tough, mate, and I want people to realise I don't like to make excuses. I'll tell you that now, but this is a reality. It's reality.
And the context is, though, the Dons have, in the league, played 2, lost 1.
And that's correct.
And that's the bread and butter of your aim.
That is it. That is it. And North Wales Crusaders they've been through some trouble themselves. But we've played them this year, we've beat them once. They'll be coming here ramping up and knowing that we're a little bit underdone, you know, but fingers crossed we'll have a few numbers back this week. We've managed to bring a couple of players in on loan, which we're...
Talk to us about them, Brad and James Delaney.
Well, listen, Gary's identified them. Gary's brought them in. He thinks they'll do us a job. So, listen, When I spoke to Gary and he told me he's bringing some players in, I said, that's good. At least you're showing you're doing something about it. That's what I want Gary to do. He's doing his best to go and try and find these players. What people don't realise, we could do with a leader, but where are we going to get them? They're hard to find, and we're trying. Don't get me wrong. I've rang nearly every Super League club, every Championship club, and a lot of them are struggling for players themselves. So it's tough.
Due to their good form in the Super League, is there a chance that you could maybe rest on or lean on Hull FC as a dual reg partner and say, can you lend us a couple more? We're struggling, we're a bit light.
Oh, listen, I speak with Motu and Radders regularly, as does Gary. They've got Leon Price out, so they're struggling in the halves, and they've also got the 23s who they have to fulfil fixtures as well. So listen, they'll help us as much as they can, and we get the players that they offer up to us, but they've had a tough 3 games themselves in a 7-8 day turnaround. So if everyone was fit and we didn't have so many injuries, we don't want to rely on Hull. This is, we have these fans meetings and that. We don't want to rely on Hull. We're Doncaster, okay? And if Hull are going to give us players that are no better than what we got, what's the point? And arguably that's what, in some people's eyes, that's what they think happens. But we can't really be too picky at the moment with the amount of injuries we've got. We've got to get over this weekend. We've got a blessing that we're out of that. The Challenge Cup, it might have been a blessing, so we've got a week off, and we hope to have a few back for Barrow.
Sticking with the on-field stuff, the game against Hunslet has changed date. Do you just want to tell fans about that?
Yeah, well, they got knocked out early of the iPro. They're still in the Challenge Cup, so that affected us on that game. The minute we were out, we phoned to see if we could play them on the semi-final, because we don't want to be playing a midweek fixture and then a weekend fixture. So we've got one focus now, and that's the league, and we endeavour to do all our best to do what we do in there.
When you were a player and you ever lost, was there a sense that you just want to get out there as soon as possible to rectify things, and particularly when you've got 2 home games in a week?
Oh yeah, and I had a lot of the injured boys come to me on Sunday and says, I'm playing next week. Well, they want to play, but they can't play. They're not fit. So last thing we want is to get them back on the field and they break down, and so we've got to be sensible, and as much as I want them to play and the fans want them to play, sometimes you have to hold them back. And listen, we'll see how we are in a little bit down the road, but when we get the boys back, I'm confident. I've had a lot of phone calls from ex-players and all sorts, which is I really appreciate. We'll be a match for anyone when we've got a fully fit team.
Just before we get to the questions then from the fans, just a shout out to our new nutrition partners, Nutrition X.
Yeah, well, they've been with us for some time. They've just dropped us some gears. Pete Bell asked me for some water bottles and that. We needed some new ones. One phone call to them, and outstanding. The service they gave us was fabulous. So, I thank them, and we're happy to have them on board.
Happy days. Apologies we didn't get to your questions last week. We've only got 10 minutes here before we get verified on YouTube. Quick point about the academy game that got cancelled before the before the Gloucester game. It was against Hull FC's academy.
Yeah. Just before I go on to these questions, I've had an email from Mike Linley, who I think it was taken a little bit wrong. I used one of his questions as an example regarding the Sun last week, and it was an example. I apologise to him if it was took out of context, but we've had some email dialogue and everything's fine, but what I was using as an example, that those sort of questions are just didn't think were relevant. So he's sweet with that, but apologies to Mike. Regarding the academy game, we were all made aware from Jim, the head groundsman, that there was a game, I think, on the Thursday, the Friday, the Sunday and the Monday, and Jim tries everything to accommodate us. Any game we want, he'll put on, but he did say if we get a little bit of bad weather, he'll have to pull that game off because of the amount of games that were due to be played over the next week. So Jim's brilliant with us. If he can do it, he'll do it, and we appreciate that.
Another question was about leaders on the pitch. You touched on it and just say, you know, where do they don't just grow on trees sort of thing, but does someone just have to step up within the squad maybe? Oh,
100%, yeah, and you know, people haven't seen it yet, but you know, Geordie Hedges and Jordan Howden, when they're playing together, they'll be fine. You know, Jordan Howden's only a young fella, but he's got an old man's head on him, and he knows how to control a game, and that's one thing for certain that he'll bring to the table. Yeah, we need I think Liam Wellham's trying very, very hard to try and lead the troops out there, and, you know, we miss Kezzy when he's not there because he's a bit of a leader. So we've got leaders within the group, but what the problem is, we've got a lot of injuries, and that they're all not playing together. Hence the reason we've brought these two on loan for a month. So they'll be with us for a month. It's hard, and they train with us 3 times a week, so that helps. You know, bringing them in and out is really, really tough. So fingers crossed these boys can lead us. You know, the pivotal positions 9 and 7, so we'll see how we go with them, but they'll be with us with it for a month so we can get some continuity going, and just fingers crossed we can, you know, get the boys on the field and start scoring some tries and putting a smile back on the fans' faces. And
there's just one question, I think it was about the catering, and maybe we need some more staff up there in the East Stand. Have you had a word with the centre play about that?
Yeah, we have, and then I've just had a meeting with Dean Stones this week about things like that, and we're trying our best to put it forward. But they're fair points then, because it needs to be better. And just before we go, we want to wish Jamie Mack is all the best for his fight on Saturday. Big fan of the Dons. You know, he's been and sent me a message this morning wishing us luck, and I've wished him luck. But you know, he's on Sky on Saturday fighting for his world title again. So on behalf of everyone at Doncaster Rugby League, we'd like to wish Jamie all the best, and we know you'll do it, mate. All the best.
Good luck Sunday, Carl. Corny Dons.
Cheers.